Do you need to take a sip of water? Are you doing okay here? Yeah.
I'm taking a sip of water.
Okay, okay, all right. All right, then let's begin with question number 13. Many states are changing their state laws on abortion. Would you be in favor of changing current Pennsylvania abortion laws? If so, how? And we will begin this question with Dr. Jen.
As a physician, this is a subject that I actually enjoy talking with people about. Most people kind of shun away from it. But as a physician, I think this is not a whole lot different than any other health issue that a patient is going through. This is something that needs to be decided between that woman, her partner, and their medical provider. It's not something that the state government needs to continue to regulate. You know, we certainly, Republicans and Democrats alike would like the government to stay out of their business. And this is another example. I certainly think there's room for reform, but when you start limiting that, then you start taking away that ability of a woman to protect her health as well as the unborn child. As a lay minister, I can give a different approach to that, and the fact that, once again, this is a decision that needs to be made between a woman, her partner, and their God. It's certainly not something that the state needs to come in and regulate.
Well, I think everybody pretty much knows that I'm pro-life. I have said on the radio and the papers that I support pro-choice, pre-conception, but not a post-conception. We go into space and we find these little tiny microorganisms and we jump up and down for joy and say we found life out in outer space. And yet here on Earth we refuse to acknowledge that the sperm or the egg are actually life. When they come together, they unite and they form all of us. That is life. So I would support that. Now, there are points in certain trimesters of the birth that things could occur that could cause difficulties, and possibly even one that if the child was to be born, it would die immediately after it's born. If that is known, would I support an abortion of that child? Of course I would.
Just to add in there, this is another perfect opportunity to show what happens when two people on different sides of a very strong issue can come up with when they discuss the issue. This is something that Claire and I have discussed and talked about in depth. It is not black and white. There's a lot of areas that are gray that the public are not told. You just hear what the media wants to tell you. This is something that together, two lawmakers on opposite sides of the aisle can put their heads together and discuss.
Mr. Moore?
No, we're good.
Thank you.
First time something.
Okay, question number 14. What is your stand on legalizing recreational marijuana? And we will begin this question with Mr. Moyer.
I'm not an advocate for drugs. I watch live PD a lot. They make an awful lot of arrests for all kinds of drug paraphernalia. There's a drug out there right now called PVC, whatever it's called. It's supposed to be a hemp that is supposed to help pain. I would like to try that, but I can't because I'm a school bus driver. But I have pain, and if it would help, I'd love to be able to take it. It has, the THC is so minimal, supposedly it does not show up under a drug test. I'm not real keen on having marijuana as a recreational drug. I don't even like to see people that rely totally on alcohol. We have to take control of ourselves, and we have to be strong enough to lead our lives in a way that doesn't jeopardize our existence with someone else or our family. If you go to church and stop.
I think the issue of legalizing recreational marijuana is one of those issues that needs to be looked at from all aspects. It sounds offensive to say that, right? Especially to, people in the area that have no idea how beneficial this can be. You know, the fact of the matter is, when we talk about epidemics like the opioid epidemic and addiction issues that we have, if we don't look for alternative sources of treatment, then again, there's not going to be a solution. It's easy for someone to say, yes, we already do have your bupropion and methadone, but that's fixing one problem with another. It's not fixing the solution. And to be able to have this opportunity to address the issue is something that I think we need to take into consideration, because many patients are too afraid to go to a medical provider if they have an addiction. They're afraid they're going to be labeled, they're going to be judged, and they're not going to get the help they need. So this is something that I think we need to discuss.
Do you choose to do a rebuttal, Mr. Moore? Mr. Jim?
The only thing I do want to add in too is something that we need to think about on a higher level when it comes to the idea of legalizing recreational marijuana, is the fact that as a physician, I have to use a physician drug monitoring program. Every patient, that's already in the system. This is not a great new idea, we're already doing that. But the fact is, there's going to be patients that are going to suffer, and we need to find sources. Otherwise, they're going to turn to cheaper and easier to obtain, and that's heroin.
Okay, question number 15. If elected, would you approach the job as a full-time responsibility? If not, explain. And we will begin this with Dr. Jen.
I'm not really unique when it comes to this issue, and it keeps coming up time and time again. The fact of the matter is, if you look at most constituents in this area who are trying to make a living, it's possible to work 2 full-time jobs. I have said it before, and I'll say it again. It's something, if you feel uncomfortable with, I am willing to go down part-time in my practice. But again, I'm not any different than most lawmakers in Harrisburg. I'm certainly not any different from our own commissioners in this area. You know, we have a county commissioner in Snyder County who's very successful, Joe Kantz. He has a part-time job and a full-time job. He has the flexibility with his part-time job, just like I do as a physician. I mandate my hours, I mandate my caseload. So certainly the fact that I'm in a job of public service already, I'm taking care of patients, and I'll do the same when I get to Harrisburg. There's no difference.
Well, I too am in a job of public service. I drive that big yellow thing around and throws that stop sign out. It makes all of you mad when you come up on me. If I'm elected, naturally I'm going to end up making it a full-time job. I have no reason not to do that. I would not be able to drive school bus part-time and do the job of legislator. And I'm not even sure if they would like for me to do that. So I would make it a full-time job.
The only thing that I do want to add in there is the fact that, you know, it's semantics. What constitutes a full-time job, a full-time legislature, is the fact of how many staffers you have. When you research it, that's the difference. The fact is, in 2018, our House of Representatives met 42 times. Now, they're busy at their home districts, absolutely. But would you like to work less than 1 day a week and get a full-time salary?
I'll rebut that, yes.
Notice that I'm just standing here. They're pretty much taking care of it.
Well, remember my opening statement. I told you what it was going to be like. For me, I would have it open to a policy, because